Cancel culture doesn't only affect the right, because now many of these people who want to say dumb things can reap what they have sown. Connecticut sports reporter fired after calling Senator Tim Scott an Uncle Tom. That is disgusting. I find these people abhorrent, and I have seen these leftists spew racial slurs endlessly. And so you know what? I actually don't agree with this guy getting fired. I don't like cancel culture. I think we had an opportunity for a learning moment, and I'm not going to compromise my principles for tribe. Roseanne should not have been fired for her dumb tweet. She should have apologized. This guy, as much as I don't like him, and I think this is pathetic, he shouldn't be fired either. He should issue an apology, and it should be a learning moment. We've gone so far where it's just no redemption, no apologies, no satisfaction. Just get out. We don't care. And I'm not all about that, man. I'm not all about that. Look, Roseanne made a joke. You remember this? Roseanne tweeted something about, I can't remember that woman's name. It was something offensive. It wasn't overtly racist, but it was perceived as such because she compared this woman to like Planet of the Apes, and that was considered to be very offensive. They fired her immediately. And now the show is just like the Connors. Talk about stupid. This guy used a racial slur on Twitter. He deleted the tweet. Just let's end this, man. I'm so over it. But you know what? This is what the left has created. They've created this world because it's not the right who's been calling for cancel culture. The right isn't trying to destroy people's lives and their careers. It's the left. And now you can eat it, man, because that's your game, right? Check this out. A Connecticut-based sports reporter was fired on Wednesday after referring to Senator Tim Scott as an Uncle Tom in a now deleted tweet. The Hill tweeted a link to a story about Scott saying he thought President Trump misspoke when he said stand back and stand by, but called on him to correct his statement if that were really the case. Tim Scott's awesome. As a person, I don't know a lot about his policies. You know, where's Tim Scott based out of? South Carolina, is it? I'm not entirely sure. South Carolina. He seems like a rad dude. And his statement was on point. I think Trump misspoke. He should correct it. If he doesn't, then maybe he didn't misspeak. I'm like, that's pretty good, right? Redemption. Give Trump a chance. Now former News 12 Connecticut sports reporter Fred Gertani responded by writing thanks Uncle Tom and swiftly lost his job as a result. You know, I'm glad there's some accountability for the left, but I don't like cancel culture. Quote, after reviewing the incident, the network released sports reporter Fred Gertani as a result of a racially insensitive comment. Just say it. It was racist. It was racist. News 12 networks have a zero tolerance policy for racism or improper conduct based on race and prides itself, there we go, they say racism, on being an objective and an unbiased multi-platform news company. When asked if he had apologized, Gertani later tweeted that he wrote an email to Senator Scott. Scott's support of the president and the Republican Party is regularly criticized by the left. Back in August, CNN's Chris Cuomo suggested Scott was carrying water for President Trump by speaking at the RNC. Cuomo's remarks stirred some backlash on social media, with some suggesting the anchor's comments were racist. Yes, you know why? The left demands that marginalized voices get a seat at the table and they're allowed to speak. And the RNC was like, okay. And then they went, you're racist for doing this. That's the absurdity of their stupid game. Don't play it. In June, NBC anchor Craig Melvin asked the sole black GOP senator if his party was using him as a token following the death of George Floyd. Scott was appointed to the Senate in 2013 when former Senator Jim DeMint stepped down to run the Heritage Foundation, a conservative think tank. The appointment made Scott the first black senator to represent a southern state since the Reconstruction era following the Civil War. Scott won a 2014 special election for a Senate seat and was reelected in 2016. Political pundits have found tossing around the idea of a 2024 Republican presidential run by Scott. Scott seems like a rad dude. I need to look up his policies, but I've seen him speak. I've seen him in terms of presentation. He is a charismatic and intelligent and seems like a good dude. That's the easy way to put it. He's got the charisma about him. Now, the reason I'm not trying to go too far into giving this guy praise is because policy is much more important than whether or not I think the guy's a nice dude. And what I will absolutely express in disgust is the use of the left targeting people who are minorities, who are Latino or black, with racial slurs for their political opinions. I hate racism. I hate racists. That's why I don't like leftist identitarianism. That's why I don't like Black Lives Matter, because they're racists. They just want to change the definition. Well, you can only be racist if you have power. No, that's ridiculous. Get out of my face. If you want to discriminate against somebody and hold something over them or insult them based on how they appear to you, I don't care if they're overweight. I don't care if they're short, they're tall, they're bearded, they're bald. I don't care if they're black, white, Latino, Asian, and I don't care what their religion is. Show me the idea. Tell me if the idea is good or bad, and we'll have a discussion about it. I'm sure there's ideas Tim Scott has I probably disagree with. Now, I know many of you are probably saying I'm biased because, there's something about this guy. We both are named Tim, and that's unfair. Well, I'm kidding, by the way. But let's jump over to civics. Civics shows us that right now, support for Black Lives Matter is once again dropping 48% nationwide with 40% opposition. This is another uptick in opposition. Net support is way down. 8% net support. That's crazy because they had 11. Last year they had 10%. They're back to where they were in October of 2019, a year of positive gains in support for Black Lives Matter wiped out. Why? Because when you get a bunch of white people running around yelling Black Lives Matter and burning down black neighborhoods, perhaps people are going to be like, I don't think that means what you think it means. Like, I don't think, when they say Black Lives Matter, I don't think they're actually saying that Black Lives Matter. I think they don't care. I think they're racist. I think that what they're really doing is causing harm to the black community because in Atlanta, they quite literally were burning down their businesses. And when it comes to someone like Tim Scott or Candace Owens, or any number of black conservatives, Kimberly Klacik or Billy Prempe, they have nothing but racism for them. Now, I don't even agree necessarily with overt colorblindness, right? So this is the idea that everyone's equal and, no, well, hold on. Everybody should be treated equally under the law. That's it. But I'm not going to deny that racism, I'm not going to pretend racism doesn't exist. Racism does exist. So when I see someone like Tim Scott, guess what? I look at him and I say, that guy probably had to deal with racism in his life. You want to know why? I literally just read you a story about it. It came from the left. There's probably a lot of right-wing racists who say disparaging things about many of these black conservatives. I'm not going to play the colorblind game. That's what the left thinks there's one or the other. Either you recognize their race or you're colorblind, and that's racist. Dude, I can recognize that people are racist and still tell you you're racist. I'm not going to sit down with Tim Scott and start talking about how race is the prerequisite for any conversation, or I should say racial bias training or anti-racism would be a prerequisite for any kind of policy discussion. No, I'm going to sit down with them and say, so what do you think about flat tax? I don't agree with a flat tax. I don't. And I do pretty well for myself. I actually think a progressive tax is the right move, but I do think it's the numbers that matter most. So we can talk about life versus choice. We can talk about nationalism versus more, free trade agreements and stuff. I think that's absolutely fair. And I think we can actually have a conversation about race in America. I think it's important. In fact, Tim Scott was, I believe he presented the police reform bill the Republicans had put together, and they shot it down. You see, the left likes to pretend they're not racist, but they're probably the most racist today. Now, I'll tell you this. There are right-wing white supremacists. There are far-right racists. They exist. But their numbers are dwindling. And the numbers are probably dwindling because many of them realize if you want to be racist, man, the key to that castle is the left. It's not on the right. If you're a right-wing racist, you're going to get banned. But you can be on the left and you can do almost anything you want. You can say all the stupid racist stuff you want. And guess what? You're probably going to get away with it. Well, this guy didn't. He's been fired. And you know what? I'm not happy to see it. I'm not. Part of me is saying I'm happy to finally see some accountability because it's rare among these people, but I'm not happy about it. So here's the challenge. Do we accept a sort of cathartic release when we see these people face their own cancel culture? Or do we recognize that in any direction, cancel culture is bad for a civilized society? That if we really want to move forward, we don't fire them. We tell them, apologize, don't say racist things. And then guess what? You give people a chance to correct themselves. But this new world they've created of no redemption and no forgiveness cannot sustain itself. And it's in the long run going to be bad for everybody. Because if we allow something like this to happen to people we don't like, it's only a matter of time before it happens to us and everyone else. This is the same lesson I've repeatedly warned the left about. You reap what you sow. You want to ban people for being racist? Guess what? You're racist. Stop pretending you're not, because eventually you'll get fired. How about we say this? I don't like racists. Most people don't like racists. If someone says something racist, we tell them, don't say it again, and we don't take their job away. Be it Roseanne, who she made a really insensitive joke, I guess, or this guy who legit used a racial slur against a politician. We're headed for dark times, man. And if we want to respect freedom of speech, that means we have to respect it for people we don't like either. If this guy wants to say this, I don't think he should have to delete the tweet. I don't think he should be fired. I think I can just look at him and say, you're a bad person. And his company should say, we want you to apologize. But the outright termination without redemption, to me, is unacceptable. We're seeing a lot of really creepy stuff infecting our schools, our mainstream culture. This is a kind of authoritarianism that will not sustain itself. But I'll tell you what, maybe when these people face the brunt of cancel culture, they'll finally realize why it's bad. And maybe then they'll start calling for it to be stopped. I'll leave it there. Next segment is coming up tomorrow at 10 a.m. on this channel. Thank you all so much for hanging out, and I will see you then.